This is the journey to one Africa. Africans unite against homosexuality. Yes, Africans, these are things that we must unite against. Africa must unite against homosexuality. Africa must unite against this exploitation. Africa must unite against religion's agenda of dividing and conquer us. Africa must unite against that. Not against God, against these man-made ideas of dividing us. Somebody's asking, what does this mean to friends? All right, so let me answer that question. Guys, if you have any question, you can drop down. And I'm going to answer according to my understanding. So what is happening in Gabon, what it means to friends, this is what it means. First of all, friends is losing power. Africa is a work, and France has no more power. Okay, before I do anything, I have somebody here. So let me bring Juju. It's good to see you.
So thank you for having me on your platform. And I really appreciate everything that you share because I did not even know that this coup had happened. So I just, you know, I'm in the Netherlands. So I woke up and was like, okay, what's happening here? So what I wanted to say, because you said, you know, be short, not too long. What I wanted to say is that I think that what you're doing is a very great job. I really love what you're doing. You're really giving and sending out the information and the energy, you know, all around across the world, not only in Africa, because I'm in Europe, but I'm still getting all of this information from you. And I'm really going to thank you for that, and just keep on doing everything that you are doing. And also explaining about the part of religion, you know, that it should not be dividing us. Because when you come to other countries, there are people just living across each other and have different religions. So Africans should be very mindful and open to receiving that their neighbor maybe will have a different point of view or perception about, you know, who God is. But that is not something that should be dividing us. Even though I do want to say to the African people that are watching that they should not forget that before religion there was spirituality. And I know that African people are very scared when it comes to that word spirituality. Spirituality is your spirit. Your spirit already knows that there was something bigger than you that existed. So also embracing their soil, embracing, you know, the energy that is around them, because the ancestors, they may be gone, but energy can only be transferred. So know that these energies are around you. Utilize these energies like Thomas Sankara and these type of people that were revolutionists, that maybe they are not here in flesh and blood, but their energy has been transferred, you know, to somebody else and to something else that is maybe here on the soil and the continent of Africa, and still fighting the freedom that he wants for his people. So we should not underestimate that, and we should be mindful about what energy is and how it is being transferred, and also, you know, having a lot of honor, you know, for the soil, for the sun, for the stars, for the moon, etc. African people were, I mean, the continent Africa was the mother of civilization. Before Europe could even think that they could experiment with certain things or develop certain things or even develop their own country, it was Africa that they got everything from. But Africans really need to get back to that higher consciousness and get out of that fear, that state of being stuck, of having to, you know, cling onto something like, for instance, the white Jesus that has to come to save them. It's easy for me to say because, you know, I've stepped out of the religious psychosis, but I think that is something that our people really need, to be more in tune with themselves and with the higher consciousness, to get out of that fear-based mentality that we have as Black people. You know, when something goes wrong in Europe, you see a lot of people coming on the street against their government to let them know that they are not okay with it. And I sense and I feel that this energy right now on the continent, it is only going to be like a domino effect, a ripple effect. So when I woke up and saw that Gabon is like having their revolution, because it's not a coup, it's a revolution. Coup is the word for Europeans to use when things are not being done, you know, in their way. So it's not a coup, it's a revolution that is taking place in Gabon. And it's going to be, you know, going on and on and on in other countries. And this is what we need. Even though it's going to bring chaos, but chaos will bring change. So, and also our people come from greatness, and we have to go back to greatness. And it's happening right now. We have had enough, and it is time for change. That's what I wanted to say.
Juju, you have all the time. I appreciate for that. For you know, for those insights, and let me ask you this. So what do you think is going to happen to France? What do you think is going to be the response of France right now?
Well, we must not forget that even though we as Black people are spiritual beings, and we tap a lot into that, you know, that higher, the unseen, you know, the God, they don't really truly believe in that, but they do believe in magic, spells, and these type of things. So they will try to use their magic and their spells to still do whatever they want to Africa, because they cannot get rid of Africa. They cannot lose Africa. If they lose Africa, they have a problem here in Europe. And we can already see it. We can already see what type of problem they are having. Like they say, Babylon is falling. It is truly falling. So they say that when you have a cat in a corner, it's going to make, you know, different types of movement to try to get out of that corner. So we have to be mindful that these people, Africa is a real treasure for them. So they don't want to let it get loose out of their hands. They want it to stay stuck to them. So I think that Africa, the only thing that can truly really save Africa is unification of one nation, people coming together. And when that starts in Africa, it will also be like a ripple effect to other countries that have people of African DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask you this question as well, because I don't want to let you go as soon as possible. And what do you think, you know, AU should do? Somebody just informed me here that Gabon is not the part of ECOWAS. All right, that's a good thing. Okay. What do you think African Union should respond from this?
The AU.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things have to fall apart.
Yeah.
They have to fall apart for something new to be built up, because nothing that we have right now is like positive energy for Africa. So if Africa has to be good, then a lot of things that have been built around it has to fall apart. And by falling apart, I mean that everything that is working against the motherland has to be in a sense, has to be purged. In what type of way? I don't know what type of way, but it has to be purged. It has to be cleansed.
Yeah.
Still here?
Absolutely. Yeah, Juju, yeah. I can hear you 1000%. Juju, thank you so much. Okay. Wow. It's really a pleasure to see you, and I appreciate for always being very supportive of what we are doing.
You're welcome, and thank you, and keep on doing what you're doing, and blessings to you.
Thank you thank you so very much. Wait. First of all, what are your roots? I know you're African, but I just want to know, like, country.
My roots is I was born in Curacao. That's like a small, tiny island in the Caribbean. It's like a part of the Dutch Caribbean, you may say. So. Yeah, but my heart, soul, and spirit really lies in Africa. So I'm following everything that has to do with the continent, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything.
Oh yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I appreciate Juju. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Bye.
One Africa right now. Thank you. All right, guys. Appreciate to have Juju here, our very first guest today. And the link is in the comment section, just in case if you want to join anytime, you come in. Appreciate for all the thoughts and all the comments that you guys are actually commenting, because you guys are dropping a lot of comments here. And it means a lot. I know I might not be able to read all of them, but well, Africa is on a horizon. Yeah, so let me respond as well to that question that what do I think France will do? I think what is happening in Africa, this is my thoughts. I think it might even break EU, because yes, EU, they've given their statement, but I think some countries in the EU, they'll be opposing France, because they know that if France is falling in Africa, then their countries will fall as well, their influence will fall as well. So I think there's some countries in European Union, they will start detach themselves from France, because they don't want to be involved in this, and they want to kind of like backstab France and gain their own influence in their own way in Africa. So that's my thoughts, and I think France, they need to be very careful on how they're going to respond to this, because they're not gonna have, if Gabon, and I have my brother here, Niger, he's just gonna bring him in a few seconds. But if Gabon is not part of ECOWAS, then that is even making it difficult, because that means they don't have a support. ECOWAS is not gonna stand for them as their puppet there. And obviously, the countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, they're gonna be with Gabon, obviously. And so yeah, like I think France, they're trying to force them to be here, like, but I think it's really time for them to just get out of Africa. Like, the time is up. It is up. Africa lost. I mean, France lost. In Swahili, we have one say, we say zamwizi ni arobaini, siku za mwizi ni arobaini. What we mean is, if you're a thief, then there's one day you'll be caught up, and that is 40 days. After 40 days, you're gonna cap any thief. Like, you can steal every single day still, but if you steal in the 40th day, we're gonna capture you. So I think this is the time for France to, it is the time. It was a long time ago, long overdue. And okay, let me check this one. All right, guys. So he has sent to me a video here. This video. So let me try to share. I hope they're not gonna capture the copyrights here. But let me try to share this from WeOn News Media. I believe this news media, they usually don't give copyrights. So let me share this for us to kind of see this. My brother, he shared this with me, so I'm gonna share this with you. This said the record of how Bongo. Okay. Before I share this, I see my brother here. Right before I share this, let me bring him in. The Predator video here. This video, so let me try to share. I hope they're not gonna capture my brother. You're gonna need to turn off your YouTube first, and then yeah, so that we may not have that voice coming in. All right, my brother.
All right. I hope you can hear me.
How are you, man? I can hear you loud and clear. Where are you tuning in
from? Somewhere around United Kingdom.
Okay. Welcome, my brother. I would love to hear your thoughts on everything that is happening, and it's a pleasure to have you in the show. Well, what are your thoughts, man? I hope you have seen what is happening in Gabon, in Niger, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, what I would say is that it is another revolution period. Is another fantastic period for Africa. I remember, if you can study the history war, you would notice that most of the African countries got their independence from the Europeans in 19 column when Ghana started in 1957. And you will see that during that time, when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, got independent for Ghana, there was a wind of change blowing, and other countries were forced to also pressure and take advantage of that wind, and then have independent. Now the wind of change has started also blowing again from the northern part of West Africa. That is Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger followed, and now Gabon followed. And I would not want to be the prophet of doom, but I can tell you for sure that in the next months, countries like Ghana or Cameroon will be next.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you, my brother. And so as this happening, what will be your what do you think we as a people, we should do, the rest of Africa should do, here inside and outside of the continent as well?
Yeah, what I would say about this is that I would say people should not just be happy about change of governance, but people should be happy to welcome the new life. Okay, oh, yeah. Because Africa is not a poor country, but Africa has been used for so many purposes for other countries to parasite us and then get better all the time. And we always sometimes being seen as poor people and maltreated in wherever we go and do not have any respect. Now, what people have seen is that democracy, which was introduced to Africa, was one of the bad practices that Africa adapted. Okay, because even if you want to check the United States of America, at those times that they call it Amigo Vespucci, when it was called New World, they didn't use democracy to build America. Slaves were taken, things were done forcefully, and when they were able to build their economy and build institutions, strong institutions, they quickly converted to democracy. Africa was not given time to also do the same, but rather we were forced to practice democracy, which it's one of the system of governance where people can just do anything and get away with it. Okay, so now the citizens feel like we've been pressurizing our leaders, the governance, and then a lot of people in the authorities to do the right thing, but because the game favors them, there is no way you can convince them to do the right thing. So the best thing to do is that we have to take the destiny into our own hand, take our power, and then start living our life like the way we think it will help. So these coup d'etats and these overthrows would be meaningless if they do, and at the end of the day it would not go in favor of the citizens. What we need to look at it now is that Africa still got the resources that we have in possession. Majority of those resources are still in the land. Okay, so what we need to do is that now good leaders are trying to take over the continent. What do they have to do? We should begin to cut importation of any raw material to the other side of the world. That is what will bring the other side of the world to come onto a table for a negotiation. Okay, and when they come onto on the table, we need to give them our terms, not their terms. And I would suggest that everything that the Western world thinks they need should be produced in Africa, and 80% of the workers or technicians or wherever skills people they need for that production should be an African-based people. And the moment we do that, and we have to also make sure that more than 50% of those things produced should be written in Africa. Okay, I remember the last time I was reading some article somewhere, and I realized that country like Nigeria import salt from somewhere around Brazil. Look at the location of Brazil and look at the location of Nigeria. Whilst Ghana have a lot of salt in stock, a lot of deposit of salt. So I think Africans should be supposed to think now that now it's not like Nigeria have a lot of oil in deposit. They need to just always send it to Europe and sell it. They can do exchange with the colleague other African countries. Okay, we got some oil, exchange it for salt or exchange it for this. Okay, that would be all right, just on the conventional rate, just like in the olden days.
Predictor, I'm losing my brother.
Give back the resources to them. That would be a very bad thing to do. And if we keep doing that, then this coup d'etats and this change of governance would be meaningless, and it will not bring anything to the citizen of Africa.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you, my brother, 1000%. I think the point that you raised is very important for our people to get it, because everything that is happening, we could easily carry it away with this, you know, wave of excitement and everything, but not really focusing on the real issue that Africa has been having for a long time, and that is leadership. I think what you raised is really important, and I hope you know, people are listening, and Africa is listening, and I hope we are, you know, we are running towards that, you know, that direction. So I really appreciate for your thoughts, Predictor.
All right,
my brother. Have a good one. Have a good one. All right. So I am going to play. I know I have another person here, but I wanna play first this video for you guys who do not know what has been happening in Gabon, for you guys to see this video for a while, and then, you know, you guys can join, and we can still talk about this. All right, let's hear this video for a while, and then we come back. Let me see if everything is ready. All right.
Parce que il faut remonter à l'an 1000.
So who is Omar Bongo? He was a Gabonese politician who was the second president of Gabon for 42 years, from 1967 until his death in 2009. His legacy is that of a dynasty rule in the country. He became immensely wealthy in office while serving as France's point man in the region. He is a disciple of the first generation of African leaders. Omar Bongo came to power in 1967. When Lyndon B. Johnson was still the president of the United States. He presided over an oil boom that fueled an extravagant lifestyle for him and his family. During his leadership, Gabon used to supply over 2 billion barrels of oil to France. He owned dozens of luxurious properties in and around Paris, 70 bank accounts in fresh banks, lived in a $500 million presidential palace with his fancy cars, and had sprawling estates across France. At least 39 properties, and owned at least 9 luxury vehicles worth $2 million. But the tide of money did little to lift his country of 1.5 million people out of chronic poverty. Basically, the Bongo family became major French property owners while his country remained poverty-stricken. So what were the main factors behind his rise to wealth and power? 2 factors: oil and France. This is the sphere of France's influence on Africa. The French colonies in the continent and Gabon was the jackpot in a largely deserted and poor neighborhood. An oil-rich nation, most countries in West Africa have experienced lengthy civil wars or successive military coups right after gaining independence. Yet, Omar Bongo, who came to power in 1967, ruled largely unchallenged without much force, despite squandering much of the country's natural wealth and leaving it facing a deeply uncertain economic future. Bongo's rule is a masterclass in the use of patronage. His ascent to the presidency coincided with the country's rise to being Africa's 3rd biggest oil producer, and Bongo quickly realized that money could be more effective than bullets when it comes to retaining power. He turned his relationship with France into a symbiotic relationship, supplied them with resources, oil, of course, in return for political influence, money and power. Gabon had 1/5 of the world's known uranium, which was sent to France to make nuclear bombs, and the then French president tested them in the Algerian deserts. Apart from the oil, France received iron, manganese deposits and timber. And what did Gabon get in return? Money. Low-interest trade loans, salaries for advisors and teachers, scholarships for 800 students per year, all of this on paper. Gabon was always important to France. Bongo has reportedly been saying that Gabon without France is like a car with no driver. France without Gabon is like a car with no fuel.
Oh my God.
He even helped bankroll the 1981 presidential campaign of the leader and numerous other French electoral campaigns, both right and left. There is an established financial network between both the nations for decades. Apart from money, France also helped Bongo stay in power. When there was a civil war in 1993, Paris hosted talks between Bongo and the opposition, resulting in the Paris Accords, which restored power in Bongo's hands. Like other absolute leaders and new rulers in the continent, Omar Bongo curtailed dissent, opposition and the press. He would buy off the opponents rather than crush them outright. His authoritarian rule was softened by the money from offshore oil fields. For France, this attitude made him a more respectable ally than others in the region. France maintains a military base in the capital and has extensive oil interests in the country and long viewed Bongo as a special partner. 50 years on, Gabon has fewer miles of paved road than it has of oil pipelines, and the theft of billions of dollars of oil money has stalled the country's development. Plus, the oil, which still provides the vast bulk of government revenue, is fast running out. Despite the rich soil and tropical climate, there is only a tiny amount of agricultural production. And now Omar's son, Ali Bongo, is the president of the country. Apart from power, Ali Bongo seems to have also inherited the skills to acquire money and live luxuriously.
These guys, man. Oh, man, Africa.
Now, the relationship between France and Gabon has been injured and has faced multiple challenges. The French public interest groups have filed legal complaints accusing Bongo of misuse of public funds over their sumptuous property holdings in France. This lawsuit, filed by Gabon's closest ally and long-term financial partner, has exposed Bongo family of scrutiny and investigations. During the final hours of Omar Bongo, the longtime French ally chose a hospital in Spain instead of Paris, especially after the investigating magistrate in Paris ordered a go-ahead on the legal cases filed against the Bongo family in the late 2000s. The Bongo family has been accused of turning the country into a kleptocratic regime, looting its natural resources, oil wealth and rainforests, while members of the country's political opposition have long accused the family members of embezzling public money and running the country as their private property. In 2017, French police dropped the case against the Bongo family, which revealed assets including 39 properties in France and 9 luxury cars. The French news agency reported there had been insufficient evidence when it comes to the alleged ill-gotten gains to charge any of the family members. And Omar Bongo announced that he is donating his wealth to charity. And now the charges are back on the front pages to haunt the children. The allegations include concealing embezzlement of public funds, corruption, and misuse of company assets. Investigators believe members of the dynasty, including Omar, his son Ali, who is now the president of the country, and his daughter Pascaline, all of them reportedly benefited from a fraudulently acquired real estate empire worth at least 85 million euros. All 4 of the accused children have once again denied any knowledge of the allegedly fraudulent origins of the assets. A part of a 15-year-old probe into ill-gotten gains originating from its former African colonies. Further 14 people are under an investigation, including relatives of the president of Congo. So how did all of this begin? one of France's leading banks, BNP Paribas. According to the investigations, the bank failed in its due diligence obligations by not reporting to the authorities about a suspicious bank account. It belonged to the Bongo family, which used these accounts to embezzle tens of millions of euros to acquire real estate in France. We still do not know about the clear figures of his net worth. The scale of his plundered riches started to emerge only after a court case in France. Prior to the current suit, the U.S. Senate probe into private banking operations at Citibank estimated that Omar Bongo has held $130 million in personal accounts. The investigator concluded that there could be no doubt that these financial assets were sourced in the public finances of the country. It's been reported that Omar Bongo had more than 30 children with his wives and other women, but his primary family looks like this. Bongo's first marriage was to Louis Mukala. They had a daughter, Pascaline, who later became the foreign minister and subsequently the director of the presidential cabinet. Bongo's second marriage was to Josephine Bongo. They had a son, Ali Bongo, the now president of Bongo. Bongo then married Edith Lucy. She was the daughter of the Congolese president, and she bore Bongo 2 children. Now, this is important because his children are in trouble, and some of them are battling with each other over property. His daughter has been siphoning money from her dad's estate, blowing the cash on jewelry, luxury vacations, private jets. All of this as per a new $50 million lawsuit. His eldest daughter, Pascaline, had allegedly drafted a document making herself the executor without consent from her father or the other heirs. Pascaline has refused to show the full will to the family and has told them the value of the estate is only $50 million instead of the true amount, which is hundreds of millions. Instead of accounting for the estate and distributing the assets, Pascaline used the money to fund her extravagant lifestyle. Meanwhile, Pascaline's siblings have rallied against her for money laundering and abuse. Yamili Bongo Astier and Sasha Bongo Astier are Pascaline's sister and nieces who live in New York. They are demanding at least $50 million in lost inheritance. The mother-daughter duo claim that Pascaline has refused to show the full extent of Omar's will and that she intentionally transferred the assets to herself, 4 others and 2 companies who are all listed as defendants in the case. Pascaline has been dismissing stories about her father's wealth as fantasies and claimed that he had given much of it away before his death. Since the president's heart attack in June 2000, legal battles have regularly flared up over his inheritance, and things are only getting uglier.